Hello everyone, I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching now? Get comfortable and relax. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I'd been single for almost a year when this all happened. My name's Ryan Keller. I'm 27 and I live in a small one-bedroom apartment on the north side of Bloomfield, Illinois. Not exactly a big town, but big enough that you don't know every face you see at the grocery store. I work as a mechanic at a local auto shop, and I usually keep to myself. After my last relationship ended, I told myself I was done dating for a while. But loneliness has a way of sneaking up on you, especially when every night ends the same. TV dinners, the hum of the fridge, and the distant noise of cars passing outside. So one night, I re-downloaded Matchup, one of those dating apps that promise real people, real connections. The first few matches were disasters. One girl ghosted me after a week of chatting. Another showed up drunk to our first coffee date. The third, well, we dated for a few months, but she wasn't over her ex, so I wasn't really looking for love anymore. Just someone to talk to, maybe hang out with. No pressure. That's when I matched with Yayla Grant. Her profile was simple, 2 pictures, one of her at some park wearing a red hoodie, and one selfie in what looked like a diner. Her bio said, "Not looking for anything serious, just someone who gets it." That line, "just someone who gets it," stuck with me. She messaged me first. "Yayla, you look chill. You always wear that leather jacket?" Me. "Only when I'm trying to look cooler than I actually am." "Yayla, you're doing fine. Want to hang out tonight?" It was fast, but I didn't mind. I'd had a long day at the shop and honestly just wanted company. Me. "Sure. Just to hang out though, right?" Yayla. "Yeah, I just need a quiet place for a bit. Yours okay?" That message should have raised a flag. I didn't really know her, but it was 9:30 p.m. I was half a beer in, and the idea of not being alone sounded nice. 10:02 p.m. A gray Honda pulled into the parking lot below my apartment. I watched from my window as she got out. Small frame, long dark hair, gray sweatpants, oversized hoodie. She looked different from her photos, paler, eyes heavier. When I opened the door, she didn't smile, just looked at me and said quietly, "Hey, Ryan." Her voice was calm but empty, like she'd been crying earlier. "Yeah, come in," I said, stepping aside. "Thanks," she muttered, brushing past me. She looked around my living room slowly, her eyes stopping at the small shelf with photos of my family. "You live alone?" she asked. "Yeah, just me." "That's good," she said softly. Something about the way she said it didn't sit right, but I ignored it. We went upstairs to my room because that's where the TV was. She sat on the edge of the bed while I flipped through channels. For the first hour, it was fine. We talked about jobs, music, stupid dating stories. She laughed a little when I told her about a woman who once brought her cat on our first date. But as the night went on, her energy shifted. She got quieter. Her eyes would drift to the corner of the room, and sometimes she'd whisper something I couldn't make out. "You okay?" I asked at one point. "Yeah, just thinking," she said. "About what?" "People. How they change when you stop pretending." Her tone made my stomach twist. I laughed nervously. "You sound like you've been through some stuff." "Everyone's been through some stuff," she said without blinking. Around midnight, she suddenly stood up. "Thanks for letting me sleep here." "Sleep here?" I repeated. "You mean like tonight?" "You said we could hang out for the night," she said flatly, as if I'd already agreed. I hesitated. I guess that's fine. I'll get you some blankets." I made a small bed for her on the floor beside my bed. She thanked me in this oddly formal way, then lay down facing the wall. I turned off the TV, rolled onto my side, and closed my eyes. The whole situation felt awkward as hell. I fell asleep eventually. I woke up sometime later. No clue what time it was, but the moonlight was spilling through the blinds. I sat up and instinctively looked down at the floor. The blankets were empty. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe she went to the bathroom, but I didn't hear anything. The apartment was dead quiet. until I heard faint murmuring downstairs. At first I thought maybe she was on the phone, but the voice didn't sound like normal talking. It was low, shaky, like someone whispering to themselves. I slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the top of the stairs. From there, I could see the dim light from the kitchen. That's when I heard her voice clearly. "Don't make me do it again. I told you I wouldn't." Her tone was trembling, angry one second and broken the next. "Yayla," I called softly. No response. I slowly walked downstairs. The sound of my own heartbeat felt deafening. When I turned into the kitchen, my stomach dropped. She was sitting in one of the chairs facing the wall. Her knees were drawn up to her chest and she was rocking slightly. Her hands were clenching the sleeves of her hoodie. "Yayla," I said again. She didn't answer. I took another step closer, and that's when I heard her whisper, "It's not you. It's him." I froze. What? Who's him? She slowly turned her head. Her eyes looked hollow, dark circles underneath, pupils wide. "You shouldn't have let me in," she said quietly. "Okay," I said carefully. "You're scaring me a little. Maybe you should—" Before I could finish, she stood up and walked toward the hallway. Not fast, just deliberate. She brushed past me, whispering, "He doesn't like when I talk too much." And then she walked upstairs. I stood there for a good 10 seconds before my brain caught up to what was happening. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and called my dad. It took him 3 tries to answer. "Dad? Ryan, what the hell? Well, it's 2 in the morning." Me whispering, "Dad, there's this girl here from that dating app, and she's acting really off. She's talking to herself, like seriously messed up. Dad, why is she in your house?" Me, "I don't know. She said she needed a place to crash, but she's losing it. Dad, I don't know what to do." Dad, "Son, call the cops right now. Don't try to handle this yourself." That's when I saw it. A shadow by my bedroom door. It was faint at first, just an outline in the dark upstairs, but it moved slowly like someone shifting their weight from one foot to another. "Dad," I whispered. "What?" "She's up here." And before I could react, she stepped into view. Yayla. Her face was barely visible, but I could see her smile. It was small. Wrong. She stood there for maybe 10 seconds just staring. Then she started running at me, screaming. The sound that came out of her didn't even sound human. It was this deep, guttural wail that made my blood go cold. I dropped my phone as she lunged, slamming into me. Her hands were around my throat instantly, squeezing hard. I could smell the faint scent of metal, like blood. I fought back, grabbing her wrists and pushing her off me. We fell hard against the wall. She screamed again, thrashing, her nails scraping at my skin. I managed to shove her to the floor and pin her down. "Stop!" I shouted. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Her eyes rolled and she said in this trembling voice, "He told me you were the one." That's when I realized she wasn't just unstable, she was gone. I yelled into the phone for my dad to call 911. Within 10 minutes, 2 police cars pulled up outside. I met them in the hallway, shaking so bad I could barely talk. They found Yayla sitting on the floor again, back in the same kitchen chair, whispering something over and over. They cuffed her and walked her out. One of the police officers came back in and asked, "You said she's from a dating app?" "Yeah," I said, voice shaking. "You should probably stay off those for a while." He wasn't wrong.
They told me later she'd been reported missing by her parents months ago. She'd been in and out of psychiatric care, drifting from town to town. Somehow she got access to a phone, made a fake profile, and found me. The thought of what might have happened if I hadn't woken up when I did still keeps me up some nights. Now, every time I hear the soft ping of a notification from my phone, that same cold feeling returns. I deleted Matchup the next morning and haven't downloaded another dating app since. Some nights when I close my eyes, I can still hear her whisper, "You shouldn't have let me in." I matched with her on a Thursday night. It had been snowing all day. the kind of heavy snow that muffles everything outside. Traffic, voices, even time itself. I'd been single for most of my life, not because I didn't want to date, but because dating just never seemed to work for me. I'd been on a few apps before, Tinder, Hinge, Badoo, just for fun. I wasn't looking for anything serious. It was February 2014. Dead of winter, and there wasn't much else to do except sit inside with my space heater and swipe through faces. That night, I matched with a girl named Lena. Her profile photo was simple. Just her sitting in a cafe, hair falling over one eye, a half smile on her face. Not overdone like most. She looked normal, real. She had one of those faces you could instantly imagine talking to over coffee. Her bio just said, "Not into games, just want good vibes and someone to make me laugh." We started chatting around 8:30 p.m. Me. "Hey, looks like we're both stuck inside thanks to this blizzard." Lena. "Yeah, this weather's brutal. You holding up okay?" Me. "Trying to Netflix and leftover pizza are my survival tools." Lena. "That's the dream right there. What are you watching?" It was easy. Smooth. She wasn't forcing jokes or being awkward. We just clicked. I'd been talking to a few other girls too, but the conversations were surface level. Boring. With Lena, it felt like I was talking to someone who actually wanted to talk. Around 10:15, I said, "Me. You ever meet up with people from this app?" Lena. "Not really. You?" "A couple times. Mostly harmless experiences." "You close by?" Lena. "Yeah, I'm like 10 minutes away near Brookdale." Brookdale? That was close. And maybe 2 neighborhoods over? Lena. "You seem chill. Want to hang out tonight? Just watch a movie or something?" Me. "You serious?" Lena. "Yeah, I'm not working tomorrow. Thought it would be fun." I hesitated, staring at the message. It wasn't the first time someone from a dating app had suggested hanging out, but something about her tone, calm, direct, made it feel more believable. Me. "Sure, why not? You can come over. I've got beer, movies, heat." Lena. "Perfect. Send me your address." I typed it in and sent it. She replied with, "Lena. Cool. Be there soon." Then she went offline. No phone number, no profile picture other than that cafe one, no last name, just offline. I figured maybe she was getting ready or lost signal, so I waited. I switched from Netflix to a basketball game rerun, checking the app every few minutes. Nothing. Still offline. By 11:30, I was yawning. I thought maybe she'd changed her mind, so I turned off the TV and went to bed. When I woke up, my room was still dim. The gray morning light filtered through the blinds. My phone said 6:42 a.m. I rubbed my eyes and saw a few Badoo notifications. "Lena sent you a new message." There were 3 messages. 7 a.m. "Hey, I'm coming now." 2:16 a.m. "I'm outside." 3:02 a.m. "You're cute when you sleep." For a second, my brain couldn't process it. Then my heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. I sat up and looked toward my bedroom window. The blinds were half open. I could see faint footprints in the snow leading up to the window. My throat went dry. I texted her back. "Me. Who the hell is this?" No reply. Then my phone pinged again. "Lena sent you a new message. Check your closet." I froze. My closet door was slightly ajar, just enough that the darkness inside looked like a mouth. I could barely breathe. The room suddenly felt small, heavy, like the air itself had weight. I whispered, "No way," to myself and slid out of bed, keeping my eyes locked on that door. When I got near, the door creaked just a little wider. "Lena?" I croaked out, my voice barely audible. Silence. I lunged forward, grabbed the doorknob, and yanked it open. Nothing. Just coats, boxes, and the faint smell of laundry detergent. Then I felt something cold, a gust of air on my neck. I turned to the window. It was cracked open. The latch had been turned. I ran to it and slammed it shut, locking it this time. My hands were trembling. I looked down at the snow outside again. Fresh footprints leading to the window, not away. I didn't even think. I grabbed my phone and called my neighbor Tom, a retired Marine who lived next door. "Tom," I said, breathlessly, "I think someone was in my house." He was at my door within 2 minutes, still in a hoodie and pajama pants. "What's going on?" I showed him the messages. He read them, frowned, and said, "Jesus Christ, you didn't give her your number, right?" "No, just my address on the app." "Damn it, man, that's not good." We searched the house together, room by room. Nothing. All doors were locked except that one window. When he left, I sat on my bed, shaking. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "You shouldn't have locked me out." My stomach flipped. I opened the app again, but her profile was gone. Deleted. I went straight to the police station later that morning. The officer at the front desk looked half asleep. I told him everything. The messages, the footprints, the window. He asked for screenshots, so I showed him my phone. He sighed and said, "We can file a report, but honestly, tracking down someone from these apps isn't simple. You'd need a subpoena to get their data. Best thing, stay with someone for a few nights, keep your doors locked." I wanted to scream. That was it? For the next week, I barely slept. I pushed a chair against the bedroom door every night. I even bought one of those motion lights for outside. Nothing else happened. No new messages. By the 7th day, I started to relax again. Maybe it was just a twisted prank. Maybe someone found my address online somehow. But on the 8th night, I woke up at 3:13 a.m. to a faint noise. Not inside. Outside. It was the beep of a phone notification. That distinct 3-note chime. I sat up slowly. It came again. Closer this time. From outside my window. I crept to the blinds, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I lifted one slat just enough to peek out. A woman was standing in my driveway. Dark coat, hood up. A faint glow from her phone lit her face. Pale, sharp features, eyes locked straight at my window. She smiled. I dropped the blinds instantly, backed up to the wall, and called 911. By the time the police arrived, she was gone. They found more footprints circling my house this time. The officers took another report but said the same thing. Without her account, they couldn't trace her. I deleted every dating app I had that night. It's been over 10 years since then. I've moved twice, changed jobs, even changed my number. But sometimes when it's quiet at night and I get a random phone notification, I still hear that triple note chime in my head. And I swear, every winter when the snow falls heavy again and the world goes quiet, I catch faint footprints outside my window. Not fresh, not deep, just watching.
I wasn't planning on dating again. Not so soon, at least. After ending things with Jake, the guy I thought might have been the one, I promised myself a break. But you know how it goes. Silence gets heavy after a while. The evenings felt too long, my phone too quiet. I told myself I was just curious, not desperate. When I re-downloaded Tinder on a slow Thursday night, I remember staring at my reflection in the screen, half my face lit by the phone's glow, thinking, God, I'm really doing this again. I live in Columbus, Ohio, in a little townhouse I rent alone. I work as a project coordinator for a construction firm downtown. My weekdays are a blur of spreadsheets, phone calls, e-calls, and bad coffee. My friends all have their own lives, husbands, kids, chaotic calendars, so I figured, what's the harm in swiping a little? That's how I matched with Ryan. Ryan's profile looked normal. Too normal, maybe. Clean-cut guy, late 20s, dark hair, a few photos of him hiking,
one of him with a dog, another at some brewery. His bio said, sarcastic, employed, and taller than your ex. It made me laugh out loud, which almost never happens with Tinder bios. We started chatting. He was witty, quick with comebacks, a little cocky, but not obnoxious. He asked about my favorite places around town, what I did for fun, what my go-to coffee order was. It felt refreshing. Most guys on the app were either too forward or too bland. Ryan was right in that sweet spot of playful and grounded. After a couple of days, we moved to texting. He was responsive without being clingy. Sometimes he'd send voice notes, which made him feel real in a way most guys on apps don't. A week or so in, he said something that stuck with me. "Ryan, you seem like someone who doesn't like games." "Me? Not unless we're talking board games." "Ryan, good. I'm done with fake people. You seem solid." It felt genuine. I let my guard down. 2 weeks later, he texted, "Ryan, you drink wine, right?" "Me? That's like asking if I breathe air." "Ryan, perfect. I want to send you something. What's your Venmo?" I hesitated. I'd never had a guy offer to send me money. Me, wait, for what? Ryan, just to treat yourself. Couple bottles of wine on me. Long week. I laughed it off, but he insisted. It wasn't a crazy amount. $40. He sent it right away. I joked about feeling like a wine influencer, and he replied with a little heart emoji. He then asked if I wanted to come by his place later that week. Said a few of his friends were hanging out, grilling, nothing crazy. He added, "If you're not comfortable, totally fine. I get it." Something about that message made me relax. He wasn't pushy, just casual. So I agreed. Friday came. I remember the sky had that muted blue tint that happens before sunset, where everything feels quiet and kind of surreal. I stopped by a liquor store and picked up 2 bottles of red. Nothing fancy. His house was in Westerville, a decent area. I pulled into the driveway around 7. His car was parked outside, lights on in the living room. He opened the door before I could knock. "Hey," he said, grinning. He looked the same as his pictures, maybe even better. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans. His smile was disarming. Easy. Inside, 2 of his friends were sitting on the couch watching some football highlights. One introduced himself as Trent, the other as Eli. They both seemed nice enough, casual, polite, but the first thing I noticed wasn't them. It was the kitchen. 2 of the cabinet doors were completely destroyed. Splintered wood, hinges bent, one hanging half off. The others had cracks spidering across them like someone had punched through. I tried to laugh it off. Me, "What happened to your kitchen? Someone lose a fight with a cabinet?" Ryan, chuckling, "Yeah, that'd be me. Had a rough night last week. Took it out on the wrong target." He said it like it was funny, but my stomach twisted a little. Me, "You punched them?" Ryan, "Yeah, stupid, I know, but hey, cheaper than therapy, right?" He grinned, waiting for me to laugh. I didn't. I brushed it off and followed him to the living room. I opened one of my bottles of wine while the guys cracked open beers. The conversation was fine, normal, music playing low, laughter here and there. After about an hour, Trent said he had to head out. Eli stayed a little longer, then went to smoke outside. That's when things started to change. Ryan was standing by the counter, scrolling his phone. Out of nowhere, he slammed it down so hard, it bounced off the granite and hit the floor. "Whoa! What's wrong?" Ryan, "Nothing. It's fine." Me, "You sure? You looked—" Ryan, "I said it's fine." The sound of his voice, sharp, sudden, always made my heart jump. He picked up the bar stool and threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a deafening clang. Me, "Ryan, what the hell?" Ryan, "Just leave me alone for a sec." I froze. My instincts told me to get out, but I didn't move. Not yet. I just stood there, clutching the neck of my wine bottle like it was some kind of shield. Eli came back inside, cigarette still burning in his hand. Eli, "Bro, what the hell was that?" Ryan, "Drop it, man." Eli, "You're scaring her, dude." Ryan didn't reply. He just stared at me. this glassy, distant look in his eyes, like he wasn't really there. He walked toward me slowly. Ryan, seriously, stop! Then all of a sudden he lunged forward and bit me hard on the thigh. I screamed and shoved him off, my leg stinging, my jeans torn. What the hell is wrong with you? He looked dazed, like he didn't even register what he'd done. Then he did it again, lunged for my leg and bit down harder. That time I swung. I hit him square in the head with the wine bottle. Not enough to break it, but enough to make him stumble back. He fell against the wall, panting, wide-eyed. Ryan, you hit me! You bit me! He stood there, breathing heavy, then suddenly laughed, this loud, unhinged laugh that echoed through the house. Ryan, oh my God, I'm such an idiot! He started pacing, muttering to himself. Then, without warning, he threw himself backward, literally hurled his body onto the floor outside the hallway. The thud made the walls shake. Eli, dude, stop! What? Ryan, I can't stop. He punched the drywall hard. His knuckles split open, blood smeared on the pale paint. I stepped back, shaking. I need to go. Ryan, no, please wait. His voice cracked. Suddenly, he was crying, like full-on sobbing. He fell to his knees, holding his head. My dad's sick. I'm not okay. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to bolt, but another part, that stupid empathetic part, hesitated. You need help, Ryan, like professional help. Ryan, don't go. Please, don't go. Eli stepped between us. Eli, man, she needs to leave. You're freaking her out. No, we're going to go fishing, remember? I just want to talk, just to talk. Fishing? What the hell was he talking about? I think I'll pass on the fishing. Eli, no, it's fine, he said quickly, trying to de-escalate. We'll all go. You can follow us. I nodded, grateful for any excuse to get to my car. Outside, the night air hit me like a shock. I could hear crickets, the hum of a distant lawnmower, the kind of calm that makes chaos feel even more surreal. Eli got into the driver's seat of his truck. I told them I'd follow behind. Ryan turned, eyes wild. Ryan, why aren't you riding with me? I'll follow. I need to grab something from my car. Ryan, no, you're coming with me. Get in the truck. He stepped closer. Ryan, stop. I'm not going anywhere with you. His expression hardened. Ryan, then go the hell home. He slammed my car door and stormed off. Eli looked mortified, but didn't say anything. They drove off, disappearing around the corner. I sat there, trembling, trying to steady my breathing. I waited a couple minutes, then started my engine. That's when I saw him again. 3 blocks down, standing dead center in the road. Ryan! He was facing me, his chest heaving, eyes locked on my headlights. Whispering, oh my God! Before I could react, he sprinted straight at me, full speed, and slammed both his hands onto my hood, dragging them across the metal with a horrible, screeching sound. He ran to my side, yanking at the handle. Ryan, open the door. I just want to talk. I threw the car in reverse, tires screeching. He pounded the back window so hard I thought it might shatter. I shifted to drive and floored it. In the rear view, I saw him chasing after me, barefoot, his shirt half torn. I didn't stop until I hit the main road. The next morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. Eli, hey, it's Eli. I'm so sorry about last night. I've never seen him like that before. Please don't call the cops. He's not well. And a minute later, another text came in. Ryan, I heard I went psycho. I don't remember any of it. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. My legs still hurt. The bruises from his teeth were dark purple, shaped like a jawline. I replied once. You're lucky I didn't shoot you. Who's my number? Then I blocked him. It's been 6 months. Sometimes when I'm driving home late, I still check my mirrors. I don't even use dating apps anymore. Not because of what happened, or maybe exactly because of what happened. I just can't bring myself to trust that smiling face on a screen again. People say monsters aren't real. They are. They just text you first. I wasn't really looking for love that fall. Just trying to feel like I still existed.
After my breakup in late 2016, I'd spent almost a year pretending I didn't care, pretending I was fine. But the truth was, I was exhausted from being alone. I'd go to work, come home, cook for one, and scroll through my phone until my eyes burned. By October 2017, I was 21, living in a small rented duplex on the edge of Bloomfield, Indiana. One of those quiet towns that feels like it's stuck between being suburban and rural. Half the people still went to church every Sunday, and the other half drank at the same two bars on Main Street. I worked part-time at a coffee shop off the highway, and my days were so predictable I could measure time by which truckers came through the drive-thru. That's when I re-downloaded Tinder. Not because I wanted a relationship. Hell no. I just wanted to talk to someone who didn't already know me. Someone who didn't look at me with pity when I said my last relationship just didn't work out. That's when I matched with Caleb. His profile didn't scream creep or red flag, just normal pictures. Him fishing with a friend, laughing in a flannel, one of him with a golden retriever. His bio said, just moved here, looking for a reason to like Indiana. He looked real, and I guess that was all it took. We matched on a Friday. By the end of that night, we'd exchanged over 100 messages. Caleb, you seem like the type who laughs at her own jokes. Me, only when they're good. Caleb, so all the time then. It was stupid, but it made me laugh. He was funny without being crude. Thoughtful, even. Said he'd recently moved from Michigan for work. Something to do with supply chain stuff. Boring, but pays the bills, he'd said. We texted for about 2 weeks before he asked me to meet up. I hesitated. I'd been on dating apps before. I'd had enough weird first dates to write a book. But something about him felt different, so I said yes. We agreed to meet halfway at this bar and grill in Bloomfield Square called Mason's Tap Room. It wasn't fancy. Wood-paneled walls, low lights, the smell of beer soaked into the carpet. But it was familiar. Safe in a small-town sort of way. It was a Tuesday. I got there first, around 7, ordered a cider and tried to calm my nerves. He texted, running a few minutes late, be there soon. 15 minutes later, the door opened, and there he was. He looked mostly like his pictures. Same sandy hair, same jawline. But there was something off. He looked drained, pale with dark circles under his eyes, and when he smiled, it didn't quite reach them. Caleb, hey, sorry, parking was a mess. Me, you're fine. Thought maybe you ghosted. Caleb, half laughing. Not my style. His voice, though, it threw me. It had this strange, shaky tone, like every word was balancing on the edge of tears. It wasn't quite sad, just strained. We sat down and ordered a couple of beers. At first it was fine, small talk about work, favorite music, bad weather. But about 10 minutes in, things started to feel off. He kept staring. Not in a cute, you're pretty way, more like he was studying me. His eyes didn't blink much either. At one point I noticed a tattoo on his forearm. The all-seeing eye. The Illuminati symbol. I tried to lighten the mood. Jokingly, so what's that about? Illuminati confirmed? Caleb, dead serious. Don't say that in public. Me, what? Illuminati? Yeah. People listen. He wasn't smiling. I thought maybe he was kidding. Some dry humor thing. But his eyes stayed fixed on me. Me. You're joking, right? Caleb, you know the people who joke about crying are usually the ones who die young? He said it flatly, not even as a threat, just like he believed it. I laughed nervously, trying to steer the conversation somewhere normal. That's dark, I said. Caleb, it's just true. You ever feel like you've died before? And you're just stuck? I didn't even know how to respond. My hands were sweating under the table. Then, as if he realized how weird it sounded, he smiled. And it was wide and sudden. I'm kidding. You're easy to mess with. I forced a smile too, but something in me told me to text a friend. I shot a message to my coworker Sierra. Just a casual, hey, come to Mason's Tap Room, bring Emma. She texted back. Now? Me. Yeah, just say hi. About 20 minutes later, they walked in. I waved them over, pretending it was some coincidence. Me, oh my God, hey.
Didn't think you'd actually come out. Sierra. Figured we'd grab a drink. Caleb. Smiling tightly. Friends of yours? Me. Yeah, just coworkers. The second I slid over to make room for them, Caleb's hand went to my knee. Not gently. He squeezed hard. I looked at him silently, telling him to stop, but he leaned in close and whispered, Caleb, you have beautiful kneecaps. I froze. I didn't even know how to respond. Sierra caught my expression and raised an eyebrow. Seer, you good? Me. Yeah, just tired. When they ordered drinks, Caleb knocked back his beer like water. Then another. Then another. By the time Sierra and Emma decided to leave, maybe an hour later, he'd had 7 beers on a Tuesday. I tried to close my tab. He stood right behind me while I signed the receipt, his breath hot on my neck. That's when I noticed he was hard. Like visibly, I froze. My stomach dropped. I turned, half laughing, half panicked. Okay, I think you've had enough to drink, Caleb. You think I'm drunk? Me. A little. Caleb. I'm just happy. It had started raining outside. I grabbed my coat and bag, ready to say goodbye. That's when he followed me to my car. Caleb. Hey, wait, I walked here. Me. You walked? It's raining. Caleb. Yeah. Can you drop me? It's not far. I hesitated. Every instinct in me screaming no. But part of me, the naive, people-pleasing part of me, didn't want to seem rude. Fine, I sighed. I'll take you home. He gave me directions through a quiet residential area, the kind with old houses and motion sensor lights that flicker on as you pass. As we neared a small white bungalow, he said, Caleb, this isn't really my house. I'm staying with my sister. Basement's mine for now. When I pulled up, I shifted the car into park. Me. Okay, here we are. Before I could even reach for the unlock button, he leaned in fast. I turned my head to offer the cheek. Polite, safe. But he grabbed my jaw and forced his mouth onto mine. His tongue was inside my mouth before I could even process what was happening. I shoved him back. I mean, what the hell, dude? Caleb, you taste exactly how I thought you would. My blood ran cold. I reached for my phone. Get out of my car. He didn't move. His eyes started to water. Tears. Actual tears. Caleb, I'm in love with you. I knew at the moment I saw your profile. You're the one. Me. If you don't get out, I'm calling the police. He froze, his lips trembling, then whispered, Caleb, you shouldn't threaten people you care about. For a moment, I thought he might hit me. Then, just as quickly, he smiled, wiped his tears, opened the door, and stepped into the rain. I locked the doors immediately and sped off. My hands were shaking so bad I almost missed a stop sign. When I got home, I checked my phone. There were already 3 missed calls from him. Then a text. You left your umbrella in my car. I hadn't brought one. I deleted the message. A week passed. Nothing. I started to think maybe it was over. Until one night, as I was leaving the coffee shop after closing, I saw a car
Idling across the street. Old, dented, familiar. I couldn't see who was inside, but the headlights didn't move even after I got in my own car. I took a long way home that night. Checked my rearview mirror every few seconds. The car never followed, not that I could tell. When I finally got to my driveway, I noticed something on my porch. An umbrella. Black. Cheap. One I'd never seen before. I called Sierra. Told her everything. She begged me to call the cops. But what could I even say? A guy from Tinder dropped off an umbrella? They wouldn't care. So, I moved apartments 2 months later. Changed my number, deleted all my dating apps. It's been years now, but every once in a while, I'll see someone on the sidewalk. Sandy hair, denim jacket, and my stomach knots up before my brain catches up. Sometimes I still wonder how he knew where I lived. And sometimes, when I leave my apartment in the morning,
I'll notice faint, wet footprints on the steps, like someone had been standing there just long enough to make me remember. I was 20, finishing my last semester at Western Valley University, living off caffeine, instant noodles, and panic. My nights blurred into library hours and my mornings started with missed alarms and empty coffee cups. I wasn't looking for love. Hell, I barely had time to love myself. But one night around 1 a.m., I was scrolling through my phone to decompress and found myself downloading a dating app called Coffee Meet. I told myself it was just curiosity. I'd been single for about a year after a messy breakup, and part of me missed the simple comfort of conversation. Someone to ask how my day went, even if it was through a screen. That's where I met Landon. His profile picture showed him sitting on a park bench with a big, goofy grin, messy dark hair, and a flannel shirt. He had this unassuming, down-to-earth look, nothing like the usual gym selfies or car shots. His bio said, music, camping, and cold brew. Looking for someone genuine. It felt harmless enough. We matched. His first message wasn't some cringy pickup line. It was, "You look like someone who doesn't get enough sleep. Finals?" I laughed and typed back, "Guilty. You stalking my dark circles?" He replied instantly, "Only appreciating your honesty. I'm Landon, by the way." I told him my name, and within minutes, it felt like I'd known him longer than the app had existed. We talked for maybe 2 days, just about normal things. Uni stress, my part-time job at a smoothie place, his work in tech, and how he was planning to move closer to the city soon. He seemed funny, intelligent, and surprisingly respectful. But the deeper into finals week I got, the more I realized I didn't have the bandwidth to keep texting. I wanted a clean slate, no distractions. So one night, before deleting the app, I messaged the few guys I'd been chatting with. I wrote something simple. "Hey, just wanted to let you know I'm deleting the app. I've got too much going on right now. Didn't want you to think I ghosted." When I sent it to Landon, he replied within seconds. "Totally get it. You seem cool though. Mind if we keep in touch?" I hesitated. Then I thought, why not? He'd been decent. I gave him my Facebook. A week later, he added me. His first message was casual. "Hey, how's school treating you?" We chatted like old friends. He never flirted, never crossed any lines. He asked about my thesis, my gym routine, even the playlist I listened to when I studied. I figured he was just one of those guys who actually knew how to hold a conversation. Weeks passed, then months. By the time spring rolled around, he said, "We've been talking for a while now. You want to grab coffee sometime?" I didn't see the harm. I made sure to be clear, though. "Sure, but just as friends. I'm not really dating right now." He sent a thumbs-up emoji and said, "Yeah, no worries. Just coffee." We scheduled it for 3 weeks later after my exams. But in those 3 weeks, something shifted. He started messaging me a lot. At first, it was once or twice a day, then it became 5 or 6 times, then 10. He'd say things like, "Can't wait for our date." And I'd remind him, "Not a date, just catching up, right?" He'd always reply, Yeah, of course," with a winking emoji that didn't sit right with me. The night before exams, I decided to just make it clear. Me. "Hey, just checking. We're still on the same page, right? I noticed you keep calling it a date, but I just want to be upfront. It's just coffee as friends." Him. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Me. "Just that I'm not looking for anything romantic. I thought I made that clear." Him. "So what, you were just wasting my time then?" Me. "No,
I just thought we were friends. I didn't lead you on. Him. You really think you're better than everyone else, huh? You're like every other stuck-up girl on these apps. I froze. His tone flipped from friendly to venomous in seconds. Me. Landon, you're overreacting. I'm just being honest. Him. You'll regret playing me like this. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Then, he started sending message after message, paragraphs, swearing, accusations, name-calling. I blocked him on Facebook, but I had already made one mistake. When we made plans, I'd given him my number. That night, my phone lit up like fireworks. In 27 p.m., Landon calling. 10:32 p.m., Landon calling. 10:36 p.m., new voicemail. 10:41 p.m., Landon calling. It went on until I finally put my phone on silent and tried to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I had 37 missed calls, 15 voicemails, and over 50 texts. The texts were a mix of anger and desperation. I just want to talk. Why are you doing this to me? You can't just ghost people. You owe me a chance. And if you don't pick up, I'll make you talk to me. I deleted the messages and tried to move on. Maybe he'd get bored. He didn't. By the end of the week, I was getting dozens of calls a day. Every time I silenced one, another came. I contacted my phone company, explained everything, and they said, "You can only block 3 numbers, ma'am." 3. He was using new numbers each time. I begged them for help, and they said there was nothing they could do. So I called the police. They said, "You'll have to contact your phone provider first, but we can take a statement in case it escalates." Escalate. It did. 3 weeks later, the messages started sounding different. He stopped begging. He started planning. You can't hide forever. I know your Thursday gym routine. You walk home from class around 6, right? I'll come to you if you won't come to me. Every word sent a chill down my spine. He was piecing together my schedule from our old conversations, my campus, my work hours, my gym. I stopped going to all of them. I stopped leaving the house after dark. One night, I was lying in bed when a new text buzzed in. Girls like you always think they can get away with it. But you'll see. I'll make you do. My blood turned cold. I called the police again. Voice shaking. They told me to come in the next morning. I gave them every text, every voicemail, every screenshot. The detective I spoke to, Officer Marquez, said, "You did the right thing. We'll file for a restraining order." Within a week, the order went through. And just like that, silence. No more calls, no texts, no voicemails. It was like he had vanished off the face of the earth. Months later, when I could finally breathe again, I looked him up. The Facebook account was gone. The phone numbers were dead. But through a mutual friend of a friend, I found out something that made me sick to my stomach. He wasn't 26, like his profile said. He was 34. A grown man
Pretending to be younger. For months, I'd been chatting with someone who studied me like a case file. I think about it sometimes, how normal it felt at first, how quickly things spiraled, how easily someone can slip into your life through a screen.
Now, when people ask why I hate dating apps, I just say, because I met Landon, and I never ever let strangers know my schedule again. I'd only been in the States for about 2 months when the boredom finally got to me. I'd wake up every morning in my small, one-bedroom apartment in Tacoma,
Scroll through my phone and end up watching reruns of 90 Day Fiancé while eating reheated takeout from the night before. I'd come here from Melbourne for a job transfer, temporary. At least that was the plan. But between the long work hours and being in a city where I knew no one, I felt like I was dissolving into routine. So one Friday night, wineglass in hand and soft jazz humming from my Bluetooth speaker, I decided to re-download a dating app. Just to talk, I told myself. Maybe grab dinner with someone who didn't talk in Slack messages. I didn't even have a clear goal. Wasn't looking for love or hookups, just company. Human warmth. After scrolling through profiles that ranged from shirtless mirror selfies to just ask what I do for work, LOL, I matched with a guy named Caleb. His profile was normal, something about liking craft beer, hiking, and bad dad jokes. He had a half smile in all his pictures, not trying too hard. I liked that he messaged first. So, are you another Aussie here to correct us on how we say aluminum? I laughed out loud. Only when you started. That was our start. Light teasing. Easy. Over the next 2 weeks, we texted daily. He worked in IT, lived about 15 minutes away, liked old horror movies, and apparently made a mean French press coffee. He wasn't flirty in a gross way, just casual, the kind of normal that felt like a relief after some of the creeps I'd encountered online before. Finally, he suggested we meet in person. There's this pub near downtown, O'Malley's. They do trivia and serve the best wings. You in? It had been ages since I'd gone out just for fun, so I said yes. The night of our date, Tacoma was cold enough that I had to wrap my coat twice over. I wore a simple black dress and ankle boots. Nothing fancy, just something to say, I care, but I'm not trying too hard. When I got to the pub, the place was buzzing with laughter, the faint smell of beer and fried food filling the air. I scanned the room and finally saw him waving from a booth near the back. For a second, I hesitated. He looked different. Not bad. Just older, maybe by 5 or 6 years. His jawline wasn't as sharp as in his pictures, and his hair was shorter, thinner. But his eyes were kind. And when he stood up to hug me, he smelled faintly of cologne and clean laundry. "Hey, you made it," he said, smiling. "Yeah," I laughed, though I almost didn't recognize you. "You've changed your hair." "Oh yeah," he chuckled awkwardly. "Needed a new look." We ordered drinks. He got a pale ale. I got cider. The conversation flowed easily. We talked about our favorite travel memories, weird coworkers, and how America's healthcare system terrified me. He laughed at my sarcasm and told me I was refreshingly blunt. "So, what made you move out here?" he asked. "Work. I'm helping with a client project for a few months. Supposed to be temporary, but who knows." "You thinking of staying?" "Maybe," I said, "if I don't go insane from the rain first." He laughed, reaching across the table to brush his thumb against my hand. I didn't pull away. It felt nice. Normal. By the time we finished our second round, it was getting late. I stood to grab my coat. "You want a lift back?" he asked. "It's freezing out." "I'll grab an Uber. It's okay." "Come on," he said with a grin. "My place is like 3 blocks away. We can grab a cup of coffee, warm up, and I'll drop you home after. Promise. Just coffee." I hesitated. It wasn't the worst idea. His place was close, and he seemed harmless enough. But then again, every girl I knew had a story that started with, "He seemed harmless enough." He must have noticed my pause. "Hey, relax," he said. "You can even call your friend and share my address if it makes you feel better. I just don't want the night to end yet." That last line got me. It sounded sincere. I told myself not to overthink it. "All right," I said finally. "Just coffee. And I mean actual coffee." "Scout's honor," he said, raising his hand like a Boy Scout. His apartment was on the 3rd floor of an older building, the kind with creaky staircases and narrow hallways. The lights flickered as we went up, and halfway through he joked, If you were a psycho, this would be the perfect setup. Oh yeah, I said, half laughing. How so? Cute foreign girl lures unsuspecting American man to his doom. You wish, I shot back, rolling my eyes. But his laugh sounded different. A bit too loud? I brushed it off his nerves. When he opened the door, I noticed immediately that it was a studio. Small but tidy. One big bed, a small kitchenette, and a few posters on the wall. Tarantino movies, a band I didn't recognize. There was no couch, just a chair in his bed. Sorry, he said, dropping his keys on the counter. Bachelor living. Take the bed. It's more comfortable. I'll stand, I said, lightly, keeping my tone casual. He went into the bathroom saying, "Give me a sec. Gotta pee like a racehorse." As I stood there, I glanced around, and that's when I noticed a few things that sent my gut twisting. By his bed, near the nightstand, there were two masks. One looked like a goat with exaggerated cartoonish eyes, and the other looked like a cat or maybe a tiger with faded paint and rough edges. Nearby on a low shelf sat a Bowie knife and a small woodcutter's axe. They weren't just decorative. The metal of the knife gleamed under the lamplight, and the axe looked recently used, the edge slightly dulled, wood grain darkened. Then my eyes landed on the bedside table. A pair of latex gloves. My stomach dropped. I looked toward the bathroom door. It was still closed. The sound of water running faintly. I took a slow, quiet breath and moved toward the door, my hands trembling. I told myself, maybe he cooks. Maybe he collects weird stuff. But the masks? The gloves? The axe? No. Something wasn't right. I slipped my phone from my purse and quietly texted my friend back home. If I don't text in 10 minutes, call me. Send cops to 742A, Tacoma. Then I picked up my purse, eased the lock open, and walked out. No sound came from the bathroom. No, "Hey, where you going?" Just silence.
Down the stairs, my boots clicking against the old wood, my chest tight. I didn't look back. Once I hit the street, I started jogging. My heart thudded hard in my chest. I got into the first rideshare I could find, barely catching my breath, when the driver asked, "You okay, miss?" "Yeah," I lied, forcing a shaky smile. "Just needed some air." That night, I sat on my couch with all the lights on, sipping wine straight from the bottle, my mind replaying the scene. Those masks, the knife, the gloves. Every part of me wanted to believe I overreacted. The next morning, I opened the app to block him, but his profile was already gone. Either he deleted it, or he blocked me first. For a moment, I stared at the blank screen where our chat had been. Then, I deleted the app again. I've been on enough dates to know the line between weird and dangerous isn't always obvious until it's too late. And maybe I hurt his feelings. Maybe I misread everything. But when I think about that quiet studio, those objects, and how his tone shifted on the stairs, I know I made the right call. Because sometimes, walking away is the smartest thing you'll ever do. I remember the first time I downloaded a dating app again after my breakup. It felt strange, like stepping into a crowded room where everyone's already mid-conversation and you're the awkward guy standing in the doorway pretending to text. I was 22, living alone in a small one-bedroom apartment in Cedar Falls, Ohio, the kind of town where the biggest excitement is when a new diner opens or when someone gets arrested at the Speedway gas station. My last relationship had ended ugly. 3 years gone, torn apart by jealousy and lies, and I'd spent the following year trying to remember what it even felt like to connect with someone again. Most nights I'd get home from work at the auto shop, heat up some frozen dinner, and scroll through Reddit until I passed out on the couch. But one night, a cold Friday in February, I decided I was done being lonely. So I downloaded a few apps: Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, and eventually OKC. Stupid. That's where I matched with Talia. Her profile wasn't flashy. A few cute photos, one of her at a park holding an iced coffee, another of her at a record store. Her bio said, "Half introvert, half chaos. I love dogs, scary movies, and people who actually reply." We matched at 8:47 p.m. I remember that because it was right as I was microwaving a Hot Pocket. Our first conversation started with her asking, "So, what brings you to this corner of the internet, stranger?" And for the first time in a long time, texting didn't feel like a chore. Over the next 2 weeks, we talked every night. She lived about 20 minutes away, over on the west side of town near Willow Bend. She said she lived with her older brother until she could afford her own place. She told me about her job at a pet supply store, her cat named Juniper, and how her ex wasn't worth the therapy bill. She was funny, sarcastic, but also kind. There was a softness in her texts. I could feel it. When I finally asked if she wanted to grab food one evening, she replied almost instantly, "Sure, you pick the place. I'm easy." Well, not like that. We planned for Friday night. I'd pick her up at 6:30 and we'd grab tacos at a local spot called El Camino Grill. I remember checking my reflection in the rearview mirror 3 times when I pulled up in front of her house. It was a small beige place with a dim porch light and a half-dead rose bush under the window. The house number, 228, was nailed slightly crooked above the door. The street was quiet, lined with parked cars and bare trees swaying in the winter wind. The sun had just dipped below the rooftops, leaving that cold blue tint that makes everything feel still. I texted her, "Hey, outside." A few minutes passed. I could see the faint light from her window flicker. Maybe a TV or a lamp. I waited. Another text came through. "Talia, hey, sorry, my brother's being super annoying. He says he wants to come outside and meet you real quick before I go." I stared at that message for a second. I typed back, "Oh, okay. Is that necessary?" She replied right away, I know, he's protective. Just humor him. I swear he's harmless." I sighed, trying to shake off the annoyance. A minute later, the front door opened. Out stepped a tall guy, easily over 6 feet, wearing a black hoodie and dark jeans. He had a buzz cut, sharp jawline, and a serious look that didn't match the harmless description I'd been promised. He gave a short wave, then walked toward my car. I got out to meet him halfway. "Hey," I said, forcing a polite smile. "You must be Talia's brother." He extended his hand. His grip was firm, too firm. "Yeah, man. Name's Derek." His tone was flat but not unfriendly, just unreadable. "Is she inside?" I asked. "She's getting ready. Thought I'd just come out and see who you were." He glanced at my car, then at me again. His eyes didn't blink much. "Appreciate you coming to pick her up, bro. A lot of weirdos out there, you know?" "Yeah," I chuckled nervously. "Tell me about it." He nodded, his gaze not leaving my face. "You cool if you come in for a sec? She's almost ready. House is cold as hell, though, so don't judge." Every instinct in me said no, but it felt rude to refuse, so I said, "Sure, that's fine." The inside smelled faintly like cigarettes and something fried, maybe chicken or catfish. The walls were off-white, lily-yellowed with age, and there were boots and jackets piled near the door. "Just chill here," Derek said, motioning toward the living room. "She's upstairs." He started up the steps, his heavy boots creaking. The living room light was dim. There was an old couch facing a flickering TV screen showing static. 2 men sat there, both older than me, maybe late 20s. One wore a flannel shirt and baseball cap, the other a black beanie pulled low. They both turned to look at me when I walked in. I gave an awkward nod. "Hey." The one in the beanie didn't respond, just smirked a little. I shifted on my feet, trying to keep my composure. I could hear muffled voices upstairs, but I couldn't tell if it was Derek talking or someone else. Something about the air in that house felt wrong. I pulled out my phone and texted Talia. "Hey, I'm inside. Your brother said you're upstairs." No response. Another minute passed. I cleared my throat and called up the stairs. "Everything good up there?" Derek's voice came back. "Yeah, just give us a second. She can't find her purse." That's when I noticed something strange. There were no pictures anywhere in the house. Not a single frame photo. Not even one of Talia. The guy in the flannel leaned forward suddenly. "You said you're picking up Talia?" "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "We're going to grab dinner." "That's cool. You from around here? Cedar Falls?" He nodded slowly. "Nice area." Then he and the other guy exchanged a look. The kind people share when something's about to happen. I started backing toward the door. My heart was thudding in my chest now. "Hey, tell Talia I'll just wait outside," I called up the stairs, forcing a laugh. "No rush." Derek didn't answer. The 2 men stood up. That's when I heard it. A whisper from the stairwell. "Grab him." I didn't think. I bolted. One of the guys lunged, grabbing the back of my jacket. I twisted free, yanking the handle on the front door and flinging it open so hard it slammed the wall. Cold air hit my face. I sprinted across the lawn toward my car as the sound of heavy footsteps pounded behind me. Someone shouted, "Stop him!" I fumbled for my keys and dropped them, cursed, picked them up again, dove into the driver's seat, slammed the lock button just as one of them reached the air door too. Fists hit the window so hard the glass shuddered. Another kick landed near the back tire. I turned the ignition and the engine coughed, then roared to life. "Come on, come on, come on," I muttered. I threw it in reverse and gunned it, skidding halfway onto the curb before tearing down the street. My chest felt like it was going to explode. In the rearview mirror, I saw them standing in the road, Derek and the other 3, just staring. No Talia. No woman at all. I didn't stop driving until I reached the Speedway gas station on Main Street. I parked under the bright lights, shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. I called 911. My voice cracked when I tried to explain what happened. The fake profile, the men in the house, the chase. The dispatcher told me to stay put and wait for a unit. 15 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. I gave them the address, told them everything. They took my statement, and one of them, Officer Ramirez, asked, "You sure about the name Talia? And you said the house was number 228 on Willow Bend?" "Yeah," I said.
You'll see the car marks out front. I barely got away. They exchanged a glance. Ramirez sighed. That house has had reports before. Different people. Every time they use fake accounts to lure folks. Usually for robbery. Sometimes worse. The blood drained from my face. Did you find her? The girl? I asked. He shook his head. We ran the name. No Talia listed at that address. No one by that description either. They went there that night. 3 men were arrested. One of them being Derek. The other 2 matched what I'd seen. A 4th suspect got away. And of course, the OkCupid account vanished within an hour of the incident. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that. Every sound outside my apartment, I flinched. When I finally checked the app again, I realized how easy it was for someone to build a fake identity. A few stolen photos, some fake charm, and a story that makes sense just long enough.
For weeks, I kept replaying it. What if I'd parked farther down the street? What if I hadn't noticed their eyes? What if I'd hesitated another second at that door? Sometimes I still think about that house, about the 4th man who got away. And every time I drive through the west side, I swear I still see that dim porch light glowing at 228, like it's waiting for someone new to pull up. The next lonely guy just looking for a date, just looking for someone to talk to, just like I was. I moved to Portland in the fall of 2016, chasing what I thought would be a clean slate, new job, new city, new everything. After spending 5 years in upstate New York working a dead-end IT support position in a gray cubicle with fluorescent lights buzzing over my head, I finally got an offer at a mid-sized software company downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but the pay bump and the idea of starting over somewhere new felt like a breath of fresh air. For the first few weeks, everything was quiet. Too quiet. I'd go to work, come home, make dinner, maybe watch something on Netflix and scroll endlessly through my phone before falling asleep. No family nearby, no friends, just me in my apartment with creaky floors and a window view of an alleyway behind a Thai restaurant. Loneliness creeps up on you slowly. You don't even realize it's happening until you catch yourself talking to your microwave timer. So, like a lot of people my age, I turned to Tinder. The first few matches went nowhere. A few hey messages, some polite small talk, and ghosting. Then came Sierra. Her profile stood out. She had shoulder-length auburn hair, dark green eyes, and this kind of wild, free-spirited energy in her photos. She had tattoos down both arms, mostly geometric shapes and moons. And in her bio she wrote, "Painter, collector of old souls, currently vibing through the universe." Cheesy, yeah, but something about her seemed genuine. I swiped right. Within minutes it was instant. We matched. Her first message, "You've got gentle eyes. That's rare." I didn't really know what to say to that, so I sent back a smile emoji and thanks. I guess you've got mysterious eyes. We hit it off surprisingly quick. She talked a lot about art, crystals, spirituality, and energy healing. Normally, that would have been a red flag for me. I'm more of a logic and science kind of guy. But she seemed fun, playful, alive in a way I wasn't. After 3 days of texting and sending memes back and forth, she suggested meeting up. "Let's get a drink," she said. "I know the small bar near Hawthorne that has live jazz on Thursdays. Cozy vibes." Sounded perfect. That Thursday night, it was cold and misty, the kind of Portland night where the streetlights look like tiny glowing orbs in the fog. I wore a flannel shirt and jeans, nervous as hell, but trying to play it cool. I texted her that I was outside. A minute later, her front door opened. She stepped out slowly, wearing a long, dark green coat and a knitted beanie. She smiled, small but deliberate, and said, "Hey, finally. I was starting to think you were a catfish." "Not today," I said, trying to laugh. "You ready?" She nodded and gave me a quick hug, but it felt off. Her hands lingered on my back longer than a normal first hug. When she pulled away, she stared at me, not in a flirty way, more like she was studying me. Her eyes darted around my face like she was memorizing it. Then, instead of walking around the front of my car to the passenger seat, she stayed behind me when I opened the driver's door. I turned, confused. You getting in?" She blinked, then smiled faintly. "Oh yeah, I was just feeling your energy first." I laughed awkwardly. Okay, well, my energy says hop in, it's cold. She giggled and walked around to the other side, sliding in quietly. The drive was weirdly quiet. She spoke in this low, almost whispery tone. Every time I had to ask her to repeat herself, she'd laugh softly and say, "You're not really listening, are you?" We made small talk. Her art, my work, her cat named Orbit, my boring corporate life. But every few minutes, she'd go silent and just look out the window, smiling like she was seeing something I couldn't. We got to the bar, an old place called the Velvet Finch. Small, dimly lit, the smell of whiskey and citrus filling the air. I picked a booth toward the back where the music wasn't too loud. Once we had a couple drinks in us, things loosened up. She told me about growing up in Northern California, moving to Portland for the art scene, how she painted spiritual portraits for people. "What's a spiritual portrait?" I asked. "It's not just your face," she said, her green eyes gleaming. "It's your energy, your aura, the colors that surround you. You can tell a lot about someone that way." She stared at me for a long moment before saying, "You've got gray and orange around you. Gray means confusion. Orange means passion. That's an interesting mix." I laughed it off. Guess that checks out. I'm confused and passionate about a lot of things. But her expression didn't change. "No, really. It's strong. Like, dangerous strong." That line stuck with me. The way she said it, soft but intense. After 2 more drinks, I was buzzing pretty good. She seemed calmer, friendlier. When I asked if she wanted to hang out at my place for a bit, she smiled and said, "Yeah, I'd love to see where you keep your energy." That phrasing was odd, but I let it slide. Back at my apartment, she immediately walked in like she'd been there before. She didn't even take her shoes off, just started looking around, touching things. The little Buddha statue on my bookshelf, the cactus by the window, the framed photo of my dog who had passed away a year ago. She stopped at that photo and whispered, "He's still here, you know. He hasn't moved on." I frowned. "What, your dog?" "He likes the window. He watches you." It sent a chill up my spine. I had never mentioned my dog to her, not once. "How'd you know I had a dog?" She smiled without turning around. "He told me." We sat down and I poured a cup of whiskies. I tried steering the conversation back to normal stuff, music, travel, food, but she was fixated on my crystals on the coffee table. "You burn sage?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Helps me focus when I'm stressed." "Can I light it?" I shook my head. "Nah, it's kind of my thing. I like to do it myself." That's when her mood changed. Her shoulders stiffened and she turned her head slowly toward me. Her pupils were huge. "You don't trust me?" she asked. No, it's not that. I just don't." "You don't trust me." Her voice dropped lower than before. The whole room felt heavier. Then, as quick as it came, she smiled again. "It's fine. You'll learn." She picked up one of her necklaces, a small silver pendant with what looked like a glass shard inside. "You know, this isn't just jewelry. It's my link. My key." "Key to what?" I asked. "To my past lives." I tried not to smirk, but she caught it. Her face went blank. "You don't believe me." "I mean, I believe you believe it," I said carefully. That must have been the wrong answer. She suddenly slammed her glass down, spilling whiskey on my coffee table. "Do not mock what you don't understand." I froze. Her voice echoed in my small living room. Then she stood up, came closer, and put her hand on my chest. Her nails dug into my shirt slightly. "I've seen men like you before. Always laughing, always skeptical. You hide your fear behind jokes. But I see through that." "Okay," I said slowly. "I think maybe we should call it a night?" But she didn't move. Instead, she leaned in so close I could smell the whiskey.
Ski on her breath. "I'm a seer. My ancestors spoke through fire. If you disrespect them, they'll find you. You hear?" I didn't answer. I just backed away. She reached for the whiskey glass, dipped her finger in it, and drew a cross on my cheek. "Now you're marked." My heart was pounding. "Sierra, stop, you're drunk." "No," she said, almost whispering. "I'm awake." She started pacing around my living room, muttering things I couldn't understand, something that sounded like old words, maybe another language. Her voice kept rising and falling like she was chanting. Then abruptly, she dropped to her knees and started crawling around the coffee table, whispering, "Where's the cat? I know you have one. He hides when I'm here. I don't... What the hell are you doing?" She looked up at me, her eyes wide, and hissed, "Piss." I stood there, frozen. Part of me wanted to laugh out of sheer disbelief, but the fear creeping in my gut wouldn't let me. She stood up again and said, "You need to release them. The spirits in your home. You're keeping them trapped." I didn't respond. I just grabbed her coat from the chair and handed it to her. "I think you should go." "You're rejecting me," she said flatly. "I'm just saying, maybe another night when you're more yourself." "I am myself." She walked toward the door but stopped halfway. Her voice turned cold. "You'll regret mocking me. You'll see things. You'll feel them." Then she left, slamming the door so hard my picture frames rattled. 10 minutes later, there was pounding on my door. "Give me my phone!" she screamed. I looked at the counter. Her phone was sitting there. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door just enough to hand her phone to her, but she shoved hard, trying to push past me. I blocked her with my arm. "You don't tell me no!" she shrieked. "Sierra, stop!" She froze, her face inches from mine, and whispered, "You'll see. You'll hear the whispers at night." Then she snatched her phone and walked away, mumbling to herself down the hall. I stood there for a long time, heart still pounding, before locking every bolt and chain on my door. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing noises, soft taps on the window, faint creaks in the hallway outside. Once I swore I heard someone whisper my name from the living room. But when I turned on the lights, nothing. Over the next few days, I saw shadows where there shouldn't be any. Things would move slightly. A candle out of place. A book open when I was sure I'd closed it. I kept telling myself it was just anxiety or maybe leftover adrenaline from that night. Still, every time I walked past that spot where she drew the cross on my cheek, I swear the air felt colder. A week later, I saw her name pop up on Tinder again. The same photos, same bio, but when I clicked her profile, it said, "No longer available." I tried searching her Instagram. Gone. Her phone number disconnected. It was like she vanished. I told one of my coworkers about it over lunch, and he said, "Dude, sounds like you dodged a psycho." Yeah, maybe. But every night since, I swear sometimes I wake up to the faint sound of whispering, like someone sitting by my window, softly repeating my name. And the weirdest part? My dog's photo, the one on the shelf, keeps turning slightly toward the window. No matter how many times I fix it, I still keep the sage on my counter. Haven't burned it since that night. Sometimes I think about lighting it again just to see if it still smells like comfort. But deep down, I think I already know the answer, because when the lights are off and the city's asleep, I can almost feel her breath near my ear. "You'll see them soon." And then the whisper fades into the dark. I never thought something as harmless as a dating app could almost get me killed. Back then, I was 17. Old enough to think I understood the world, but not old enough to know how quietly cruel it could be. It had been almost 2 years since my girlfriend, Lisa, broke up with me. She was my first everything. First date, first kiss, first heartbreak. I thought I'd get over her in a few months, but grief is funny. It just changes its clothes over time. Some days I missed her voice. Some days I missed the way she'd tilt her head when she laughed. Most days I just missed being wanted. I tried calling her for months after the breakup, straight to voicemail. I'd type long messages on Messenger, staring at the scene mark that never appeared. My brother Cody used to tell me, "Dude, she's gone, let it die before it eats you alive."
He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't exactly gentle about it either. Cody was 23, worked at a car lot in town, and always had a different girl in his passenger seat. He called it options. I called it chaos. He was the kind of guy who thought dating apps were the best thing that ever happened to humanity. One night, while we were sitting in the living room, he said, "You gotta stop sulking, man. Download Tinder. There's a whole buffet out there." I told him, "I don't want to hook up, Cody. I want to feel normal again." He shrugged, popped open a beer, and said, "Then don't hook up. Just talk to someone. Flirt. You'll remember what it feels like to be wanted." He made it sound simple, like healing was a settings option, and I just hadn't toggled on yet. But he was right about one thing. Sitting around staring at old texts wasn't doing me any favors. So that night, I downloaded Tinder. I didn't even know what I was doing at first. I stared at the profile setup screen like it was a job application. I picked a few photos where I didn't look awkward, wrote a short bio about liking old rock music, sketching, and hiking around town. I didn't expect much. I was in Gray Edge, Tennessee. Not exactly a hotspot for modern romance. Half the girls were either 20 miles away or listed Jesus first drama never. I swiped for fun, not expecting anything to happen until I saw her. Hannah. Blue hair, dark eyes, a silver hoop in her nose. Her profile said she was into art, horror movies, and old diners. The exact things I loved. I stared at her photos for too long, second-guessing if she was real. She didn't look like the girls in Gray Edge. She looked cooler. I swiped right. A second later, it's a match. I swear my heart actually jumped. For the first time in months, I felt something other than loneliness. I sent the first message. "Hey, I didn't expect anyone around here to actually like the Misfits." She replied almost instantly. "Well, I didn't expect anyone around here to even know who they are." We talked for hours that night. She said she'd moved to Gray Edge recently to live with her aunt. She mentioned going to Westbrook High. "In my high school?" I typed. "When?" "Last year." I was quiet. Sat in the back of Miss Kemp's class. "You probably didn't notice me." That made sense. I wasn't the most observant guy back then. She said, "You seem sweet. Want to hang out sometime?" I didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, sure. When?" "Tomorrow night. There's an old park off Miller Creek Road, not far from where the bus depot used to be. Meet me there at 9. That part gave me pause. The park she mentioned,
Whiskey on her breath. "I'm a seer. My ancestors spoke through fire. If you disrespect them, they'll find you. You hear?" I didn't answer. I just backed away. She reached for the whiskey glass, dipped her finger in it, and drew a cross on my cheek. "Now you're marked." My heart was pounding. "Sierra, stop. You're drunk." "No," she said, almost whispering. "I'm awake." She started pacing around my living room, muttering things I couldn't understand, something that sounded like old words, maybe another language. Her voice kept rising and falling like she was chanting. Then, abruptly, she dropped to her knees and started crawling around the coffee table, whispering, "Where's the cat? I know you have one. He hides when I'm here." What the hell are you doing?" She looked up at me, her eyes wide, and hissed, "Pissed." I stood there frozen. Part of me wanted to laugh out of sheer disbelief, but the fear creeping in my gut wouldn't let me. She stood up again and said, "You need to release them. The spirits in your home. You're keeping them trapped." I didn't respond. I just grabbed her coat from the chair and handed it to her. "I think you should go." "You're rejecting me," she said flatly. "I'm just saying, maybe another night when you're more yourself." "I am myself." She walked toward the door but stopped halfway. Her voice turned cold. "You'll regret mocking me. You'll see things. You'll feel them." Then she left, slamming the door so hard my picture frames rattled. 10 minutes later, there was pounding on my door. "Give me my phone," she screamed. I looked at the counter. Her phone was sitting there. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door just enough to hand it to her, but she shoved hard, trying to push past me. I blocked her with my arm. "You don't tell me no!" she shrieked. "Sierra, stop." She froze, her face inches from mine, and whispered, "You'll see. You'll hear the whispers at night." Then she snatched her phone and walked away, mumbling to herself down the hall. I stood there for a long time, heart still pounding before locking every bolt and chain on my door. That night I barely slept. I kept hearing noises, soft taps on the window, faint creaks in the hallway outside. Once I swore I heard someone whisper my name from the living room, but when I turned on the lights, nothing. Over the next few days, I saw shadows where there shouldn't be any. Things would move slightly. A candle out of place, a book open when I was sure I'd closed it. I kept telling myself it was just anxiety, or maybe leftover adrenaline from that night. Still, every time I walked past that spot where she drew the cross on my cheek, I swear the air felt colder. A week later, I saw her name pop up on Tinder again. The same photos, same bio, but when I clicked her profile, it said, "No longer available." I tried searching her Instagram. Gone. Her phone number? Disconnected. It was like she'd vanished. I told one of my coworkers about it over lunch, and he said, "Dude, sounds like you dodged a psycho." Yeah, maybe. But every night since, I swear I sometimes wake up to the faint sound of whispering, like someone sitting by my window, softly repeating my name. And the weirdest part, my dog's photo, the one on the shelf, keeps turning slightly toward the window, no matter how many times I fix it. I still keep the sage on my counter, haven't burned it since that night. Sometimes I think about lighting it again just to see if it still smells like comfort. But deep down, I think I already know the answer. Because when the lights are off and the city's asleep, I can almost feel her breath near my ear. "You'll see them soon." And then the whisper fades into the dark. I never thought something as harmless as a dating app could almost get me killed. Back then, I was 17, old enough to think I understood the world, but not old enough to know how quietly cruel it could be. It had been almost 2 years since my girlfriend Lisa broke up with me. She was my first everything. First date, first kiss, first heartbreak. I thought I'd get over her in a few months, but grief is funny. It just changes its clothes over time. Some days I missed her voice. Some days I missed the way she'd tilt her head when she laughed. Most days I just missed being wanted. I tried calling her for months after the breakup, straight to voicemail. I'd type long messages on Messenger, staring at the scene mark that never appeared. My brother, Cody, used to tell me, "Dude, she's gone. Let it die before it eats you alive." He wasn't exactly wrong, but he wasn't exactly gentle about it either. Cody was the kind of guy who thought dating apps were the best thing that ever happened to humanity. One night while we were sitting in the living room, he said, "You gotta stop sulking, man. Download Tinder. There's a whole buffet out there." I told him, "I don't want to hook up, Cody. I want to feel normal again." He shrugged, popped open a beer, and said, "Then don't hook up. Just talk to someone. Flirt. You'll remember what it feels like to be wanted." He made it sound simple, like healing was a settings option, and I just hadn't toggled on yet. But he was right about one thing. Sitting around staring at old texts wasn't doing me any favors. So, that night, I downloaded Tinder. I didn't even know what I was doing at first. I stared at the profile setup screen like it was a job application. I picked a few photos where I didn't look awkward, wrote a short bio about liking old rock music, sketching, and hiking around town. I didn't expect much. I was in Gracechurch, Tennessee. Not exactly a hotspot for modern romance. Half the girls were either 20 miles away or listed, "Jesus first, drama never." I swiped for fun, not expecting anything to happen until I saw her. Hannah. Blue hair, dark eyes, a silver hoop in her nose. Her profile said she was into art, horror movies, and old diners. The exact things I loved. I stared at her photos for too long, second-guessing if she was real. She didn't look like the girls in Gracechurch. She looked cooler. I swiped right a second later. It's a match. I swear my heart actually jumped. For the first time in months, I felt something other than loneliness. I sent the first message. "Hey, I didn't expect anyone around here to actually like the Misfits." She replied almost instantly, "Well, I didn't expect anyone around here to even know who they are." We talked for hours that night. She said she'd moved to Gracechurch recently to live with her aunt. She mentioned going to Wyatbrook High in my high school. I was confused. "You went to Westbrook?" I typed. "When?" "Last year. I was quiet, sat in the back of Ms. Kemp's class. You probably didn't notice me." That made sense. I wasn't the most observant guy back then. She said, "I seem sweet. Want to hang out sometime?" I didn't even hesitate.